Thanks, Graham. You know, when I get back to the office, I'm going to have to put the new biography on the website. It's far more interesting than the official version. You know, some people say that the sports minister's job is the best in government. You know, I've got a secret. That's not actually true. My job is the best job in government. It's the only one that allows me to play video games in a semi-professional capacity. And actually, I've kind of overplayed that because I've had to sort of fight the perceptions that that's actually all I do in government. To be fair, Graham said when I entered Parliament in 2001, I listed PlayStation 2 as one of my hobbies in Who's Who. I realise now the industry has matured a little bit and you can't be that partisan, so I should also update that register to say that I've now got a PlayStation 3, an Xbox 360 and a Nintendo Wii, and I'm also a bit of an evangelist in the industry, for the industry amongst my colleagues, so they kind of they get to play Guitar Hero and Mario Kart when I can persuade them. It is a difficult position to defend some of this stuff, and you know, I'm willing to take the knocks because I think the video games industry is important to the UK economy. It's important for many of the things that government does, and there are a few ministerial portfolios that the industry doesn't impact on. You're talking about education, but it's also health, defence, business, criminal justice. They all have an opportunity to benefit from the video games industry, whether it's training, planning, simulation, learning, or benefiting from the growth engine for the economy. And obviously the games industry is central to my brief, not just the digital engagement aspect, but also because I'm charged with the civil service, and that involves skills and training. But none of that is really why I'm here with you today. I'm here today because I saw my 3-year-old son learn to count using the spacebar of a computer, counting Teletubbies in and out of a room on a BBC website. I was staggered and talked to my friends about it, and my friend Tom said that his son Barney learnt how to make bronze after he needed to smelt a broadsword playing RuneScape, a massive online game. And before he did that, he had to engineer the mine to extract the tin in order to smelt it. This kid is 8 years old. I'm also here because you give me the honour of meeting some of the people who are responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of creative play in my childhood. Nolan Bushnell, sitting over there, and Ian Livingstone, who between them unleashed a world for me of imagination, requiring skill, dexterity, logic, practice, discipline, and probably the key gaming skill, that of being able to have 3 days of insomnia. They changed my childhood, and it's a great honour for me to meet them. And whatever the perception about them and their industry, I say to you that I think games are good. Games help you learn. You know that because you're here today. They make you think, they make you focus, they make you challenge, and they make you change. And 500 years ago, a medium that achieved that would have been called art. And it's time we try to articulate that message in a wider audience in the UK. But I'm also here today because I want to thank some of the greatest educationalists in the UK for the work that you all do. Last night I witnessed an incredible discussion between Nolan and Derek Robertson. They debated the limits and the use of technology in the classroom. Nolan, of course, in their characteristic fashion, was completely out there, envisioning a totally radicalised new classroom architecture. But Derek reminded me that at the heart of any educational system and journey is a teacher. And for great teachers, technology is just another tool to unlock a piece of knowledge or impart a new concept. Good teachers inspire children to learn, whether it be using a rolled-up piece of crepe paper and a Pritt stick, an interactive whiteboard, or now a video game piece of software. And Derek's passion for education and teaching was as inspiring as Nolan's vision for a new technologically enabled future. To Derek and the many of you here today, no child should be left behind. No child is the same. Every child has a unique talent. It's just that you've got to capture their imagination. And you're here today because you know that if you can teach maths, logic, geography and planning using a world tour of Guitar Hero, why shouldn't you? And stimulating different areas of the brain we know is good for the child. The idea isn't new, it's been underpinning philosophy and education throughout history. Plato and Aristotle considered it essential to the development of intellectual and moral excellence. From the Middle Ages, it formed the basis of the university system. It was the foundation of the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. And it can be found throughout modern education throughout the world. People learn in different ways. So why should we cut off an avenue that can reach a whole segment of the population better than some of the traditional means? It's unfair to students who learn differently, and it's unfair to us. Do we really want to lose the next Nolan Bushnell because they didn't get the opportunity to learn the best way for them? My son will be going to big school soon, probably too soon for his doting parents, but the way he uses technology in the classroom will be a key factor in deciding his future. And there's a tremendous challenge when it comes to the institutional implementation of games-based learning. Part of it stems from the very innovation that makes this industry so great. The speed of development means that it's difficult for any institution, public or private, to keep pace. And part of it stems from generational knowledge gaps. I'm not saying that the older generations aren't connected, unless any of you think that I'm being ageist. By older, I'm including my generation and the one that came behind me. On the contrary, what I'm actually saying is that we're constantly hearing stories about how plugged in everyone is. Graham says politicians use Twitter, parents and grandparents use Facebook. My own mother embarrasses me nearly every day on Facebook. We're about, the families are being reconnected using social networking tools. But the truth is, they're about 5 years behind their children, which, as you know, is about a millennium in cyber years. So we're dealing with a generation of kids who are so familiar with what we call technology that the word is virtually meaningless to them. What we call technology, they call life. And they're not worried about learning PowerPoint. Frankly, it won't affect their lives. For them, it's about Web 2.0, social networks, gaming, collaboration, self-published content. This is the first generation of children who, by the time they enter school, will be in a position to teach their parents about one of the most fundamental aspects of our society. Dom Tapscott puts it another way. He says this is the first generation of people that work, play, think and learn differently than their parents. So how do we keep up with this? The constant pace of innovation. How do we bridge that gap? I think the passion for e-learning is there. A FutureLab Vector poll showed that the vast majority of teachers believe that the multitude of skills can be developed through playing computer games. Cognitive and motor, ICT, higher order thinking. I think discussion is in the logistics. It's about how we make it work without having technology and software that's obsolete 2 minutes after it's installed. It's about finding people with the skills to identify what's out there and anticipate what's coming. It's about finding a way to make an intricately woven, multifaceted education system keep pace with change without throwing any one component out of sync. It's about looking at new models of faster, streamlined procurement of ICT for the classroom. It's no small task, but I'm absolutely looking forward to hearing what you have to say about these issues throughout the day. I don't think there's any doubt now that we need a 21st century education system that keeps up with 21st century needs. And the video games industry is key to that. I was at a mini conference hosted by Burr a few months ago. Got so excited that I texted Ed Balls, Secretary of State for Education, during the middle of it, because there's actually so much to get excited about in this field. Just yesterday I met with a team who are developing a fantastic game called MP for a Week. I think Tom O'Leary and Peter Sidwell are here today. Are you here, guys? Yeah, oh good. Yeah, well, this game sort of slightly staggered me, because it was a sort of, you role-played an MP and you learn the ins and outs of Parliament, dealing with constituents, whips, parliamentary questions, speeches, the media, learning how to respond and what to prioritise. And you can lose party support when they get it wrong. In fact, it was so realistic, I was slightly concerned that it would discourage a whole generation from entering politics. One of the ways that I can get an extra 10 minutes sleep in the morning when my 3-year-old wakes up at 5 a.m. is to hand him an iPhone so that he can play with a phonics app. And when he's older, he'll be playing Rolando, a smash hit iPhone game. It makes money, it entertains, and it teaches physics. Simon Oliver, its creator, epitomises the sheer genius of UK games designers. And I definitely think there's a place for games and e-learning in every aspect of government too. I've just taken a Cabinet Office e-learning module on data security, but that really is another story for another time. The industry is key for all the reasons I mentioned: health, defence, disaster preparedness. It really is all interconnected. There's another reason why I'm here. If my son's education is an essential part of his future, so too is the economic fortitude of the country he grows up in. Britain's strength lies in its knowledge economy. We need to support sectors and businesses that can prosper and grow and put Britain on a solid footing. This isn't just important to help us come through a recession. It's important to create a Britain that comes out the other side with a reformed economy focused on new opportunities. This recession will end, and we need to prepare for that time by investing in our strengths now. The games industry is one where the UK PLC should be leading the pack. It's innovative, it's world-leading, and in the face of all the doom and gloom, Britain's game industry just keeps going. You can see it in the 23% increase in sales last year, or the fact that the UK already has a global reputation for its e-learning products. Not to mention that the innovation that defines the games industry is the calling card of successful business. Innovation and skills are the key to the next generation businesses, and we need to champion them now. The Simon Olivers of the UK are going to have a big role in our country's future. So I hope you can see, when I say that I want to be the industry's champion in government, I really mean that. Now, I realise that by doing this, I'm going to be the guy with a number of heavily editorialised tabloid newspapers on my back, but this industry is so important, it's worth that risk. I know there are challenges right now. I know outside organisations sometimes don't move at the same pace as industry does. I'm probably saying this because I'm afraid probably no other industry moves as quick as the games industry, other than perhaps Formula One. But I have no doubt that working together, there is much we can achieve. I think that government and the video games industry are a perfect fit. As Graham said, I am the generation that grew up playing Manic Miner on the ZX Spectrum and Defender on the BBC Micro. But I think the reason we have that gaming industry talent is because my generation grew up in a world with great vision. That it was a generation that put computers in the hands of my peers, a great generation of talent, and they've gone on to achieve the most remarkable things. In those days we programmed in BASIC. Today's teenagers should be coding in Flash. So I think there's a very positive future. I'm your advocate in government. This is important to me because I have a duty to do whatever I can to make the government the best it can be. It's also important to me because it affects my own children's future. Graham, I don't know how you found out I was a fan of Burt Bacharach, but I scrawled down one of his quotes. He wrote that great line where he said, "Knowing when to leave may be the smartest thing that anyone can learn," which is probably the best way a politician can end a speech I can think of. So I hope you enjoy your sessions this morning. I'm going to try and hang around and meet as many of you as I can. I'm really looking forward to some of the future presentations, and I know already that you're getting a lot out of this event. So thank you, and it's great to see you today.
Thank you very much for that, Tom. Hopefully you'll be able to take a couple of questions. We're going to reschedule the coffee break a little bit later, so you know, got some water and so on. But before we throw it open to the audience, I have a particular bugbear, actually. I mean, what you've said is very positive. And if I was to believe everything that you said, I'd say that this government has really got it and has joined up and so on. And yet, the Department of Health now running a fairly major advertising campaign called Change for Life, featuring a young boy sitting on a couch with a game paddle saying, you know, if you carry on doing this, you're going to get a cardiac arrest, like playing video games is unhealthy. I just wonder, is that something that you might be able to comment on? Because they didn't have a picture of a kid with a book. It was with a game paddle.
Yeah, well, how do I do this whilst looking after the interests of my colleagues in health, Graham? What I would say is I'm sure the guy that designed that advert has never played Wii Boxing. Because if you've ever played Wii Boxing with a 3.5-year-old, you know how exhausting that can be. And, you know, the more general point I make is, you know, it is not about video games, it's about the way you bring up your children. And of course, recreational video games are part of that. So is physical exercise, so is the way you give leadership and inspiration to kids. So I'm sure that it wasn't a deliberate slight on the industry, but it was an unfortunate message, and I can just say to you, I'm pretty certain they won't run an ad like that again.
Thank you. So questions from the audience, please. We have a roving mic here, so if you could put your hand up. Question for the Minister. Wow, you knocked them down.
Right.
Oh, sorry, apologies. The light there got me. If you could introduce yourself and ask the question. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. Michael Rawlinson from Elspeth. You obviously have a vision, Tom. Can I just ask what the response from Ed Balls was when you texted him? And is he as passionate about this as you are?
Actually, he was. I've been in to see him 2 or 3 times now about the whole digital engagement agenda, and he's laying down some quite tough markers for the department. So I would say you should get to the point and talk to education ministers about it. But he absolutely understands some of the opportunities available to the department and for teachers in this field, and will hopefully be making announcements in the future.
Another question? One at the back over here, the lady. Sorry, the gentleman there, sorry.
Thank you. Is there any chance of subsidies for video game companies? I mean, how's the sort of perception of video games in Parliament?
Yeah.
Is there any chance of kind of within the next 50 years or so, tax breaks, or maybe even getting it into the education?
Do you know, the one thing you do learn as a politician is never make a spending commitment on the rostrum at a conference. It kind of gets you into trouble with Treasury officials. Look, I know the industry is concerned that some of our best talent is being encouraged to leave the UK and plant themselves in a more advantageous tax regime nation. This is a matter for the Treasury and the budget. I will say I know the industry is running a really powerful campaign, and that they are getting their message over that if you want to invest in the industries of the future, you've got to invest in UK talent. Where I think it's also really important, and Lord Mandelson and John Denham are leading the way on this, is how do we equip a future generation of games designers with the right skills to develop, to maintain that reputation for innovation and creativity. And there's a lot of interest about how we can re-engineer some of our particular higher education courses, but also how we can encourage a younger generation in secondary and the FE sector to sort of get into the games industry. There's a lot of ministerial time being applied to that issue now, I would say.
So we'll have to wrap that up there. Thank you very much, Tom.